About to start. So, good day, everyone, once again. My name is Ala Daleka. I'm Marketing Manager at Wildix UK, and I'm very happy to welcome you at the very first Tech Expert webinar hosted by the UK Support Manager, Mr. Graham Dixon. Today, Graham will speak about Wildix DECT deployment and management tips. I would like to say that duration of our webinar is 1 hour. We will have about 30 minutes presentation and around 20 minutes for the question answer session. Once again, please mind that your microphones are muted. So if you have any questions, please leave them here in the chat below. If we run out of time earlier, we will answer all the questions anyway, and I will send you a follow-up email. So my part is done. Once again, thank you for tuning in and joining our webinar, and I gladly give the floor to Graham Dixon, UK Support Manager at Wildix.
Thanks, Ala. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending if you're joining from the US. My name is Graham Dixon. I am the support manager for Wildix here in the UK. This presentation is all going to be about Wildix DECT deployment and management tips. So we're going to cover a few topics. So first of all, we're going to cover deploying DECT and registering handsets, the DECT base stations, how we deploy them, what the different methods are, what the different setup steps are, configuring a DECT network for a multi-site deployment, provisioning handsets, so what the correct method is in terms of connecting various different handsets and the WAre headset. We will also cover survey mode. So what's required for a DECT survey, entering a survey mode, and some tips to look out for whilst you're doing the survey. Then we'll be covering alarm profiles. So the WAre 150, setting up the alarm profiles on the base station. And then I'll also be covering smart dial plan, so how to enhance the alarm so it can actually send an email, set ringtones, and do more than just ring a group or ring a number. I'll also be covering push to talk. So on two of the handsets, we can use push to talk, walkie-talkie mode, and I'll go through the setup for that. And then I will be going through the Wildix WAre headset and ASR use. So registering the WAre headset, logging it on as a user, and then also configuring ASR, not only to ring users, but also to ring call groups. So how we can set that up from a user's point of view and how easy it is to configure. So ASR is a Wildix business intelligence feature, which I'll cover. Okay, so moving on, some key points about the WAre network. It's CAT-iQ, so cordless advanced technology. That's the protocol that we use. And that gives us features like the ability to see shared phone books and status monitoring. So when I'm actually looking through a phone book, I can see whether someone's on a call, whether they're busy, and then I can either call them or wait for a call back based on their presence. I can use G729 and G711, which is a narrowband codecs, and then I can use G722, which is high definition codec. Supports LDAP, so I can query different directories within Wildix. It supports seamless handover when we're doing multi-cell deployments. It supports up to 3 repeaters and a chain. Auto provisioning for the WAre base and the small business base. And that includes sync from WMP, and when you actually turn on the handsets, they will connect to the nearest base station. So I'll be covering how to set that up. Access to shared corporate phone books, user presence and status monitoring, lone worker alarms, so the WL150, which is this device here, and you have the buttons and the man down feature. So I'll be covering how to set that up and a presentation on that. The WL based multi-cell roaming and up to 2 channels and calls per device. So you can do things like conferencing and transferring directly from your handset. Okay, so a couple of key facts on the different base stations and repeaters we've got available. The WL base, which is this one here, up to 1,000 users per system, up to 30 registered users to 1 base station, up to 250 bases per system, and up to 8 concurrent calls per base, and 8 concurrent handovers per base. So that means when you're moving from one base station to the other within a multi-cell environment, it can support up to 8 of them at any one time. 3 repeaters per base, and they can be in a row as well, which I'll cover, and up to 5 concurrent calls per repeater, and then up to 100 repeaters per system. So it's really scalable, the WL base, and it's the same with the WL base outdoor one that we've got here as well. So the WL base outdoor is exactly the same as this in terms of feature set, but it's IP rated. It can withstand temperatures of -20 and up to 60 degrees, and it's got various other tests against it, so it can withstand ultraviolet light and some water exposure. So you've got all the feature set there if you need outdoor solution as well. The WL small business base station is this device here. You can cover 8 users per system. It's not multi-cell, so it's ideal for small environments where they just want up to, like I say, 8 users per system or 4 concurrent calls. And then you can have 3 repeaters off the small business base station. And then you have the WL repeater, which is extending the DECT power. Like I say, you can have up to 3 repeaters in the daisy chain. What you can't have is a repeater acting as an intermediate for a base station to base station synchronization. So if you're looking to do that, you need base station to base station, not base station, WL repeater, then base station. But I'll cover that later on in the presentation. And then you can have up to 5 concurrent calls per repeater. Okay, so multi-cell solution. Scalability, again, up to 1,000 users per system, to 250 bases, up to 30 handsets registered to 1 base station. Up to 100 repeaters registered to 1 system. And there you can see in the right-hand corner what the dBm is needed for a handover. So we say -75 is the maximum that you're going to go to. Sorry, -75 is the maximum you're going to go to, and 0 being the best. Anywhere in between that will be fine for a good handover. If it's over that, you're going to get no handover and you're going to get calls drop. So when you're doing the DECT survey, which I'll cover with you, you need to make sure that your 2 WL bases are within the range of 0 to -75. Okay. So quick example on deploying a WL DECT base station. 3 ways to provision DECT. You can sync from WMP, semi-automatic, or automatically sync your DECT base stations. So the first thing you should do is provision it through one of those 3 methods, then create your WL network on WMS. Then from devices page, go back to your device, click on the base station and click configure and sync. When the LED goes solid blue, that means it's ready to be used. that means you can register your handsets and your DECT headset to the base station. So I will go through a presentation of that. Actually, something to note as well, the small business base station, you don't need to create a WARE network. So when you're provisioning a small business base station, you don't need to go through these steps. It automatically creates that network for you because it's not scalable. You know, you can't have multi-cell deployment with a small business base station. So I'll quickly go through how that looks. So from here, you go to your devices. From your devices, you can, like I say, sync from WMP or assign it either through semi-automatic or automatic to provisioning, depending on whether it's a hardware PBX or a cloud PBX. You can also put a comment against it, like I have here. So I've commented against this base station here, which is my master, and I also have a slave upstairs, and I've put a comment against that, so I know which one I'm provisioning or which one I'm working on at a time. Once I've provisioned them, I'll go into my WARE network. I click on edit, and then available devices will be shown here on the left hand side. I'll simply move them to the right hand side, give the name of the WARE DECT network that I'm going to provision, click save, go back to devices, click on the device that I want, click on configure and sync. That will then push the WARE network to the DECT base station. So you'll see it flash to say it's pulling down the provisioning settings. Once it pulls down the provisioning settings, it will go solid blue like it's on at the moment. Once it's solid blue, like I say, you will then be able to connect to it. Okay, so how that looks. If I connect to my master base station, admin, and it is the password here, so the unique secure password that every Wildix device gets when they're provisioned. So you get the unique secure password. I'm going to paste that into here. And then if I'm doing a multi-cell deployment, if I click down here to multi-cell, and then I scroll down, I can see what the DBM is to my other base station. So I can see that actually my connection to the slave base station is at minus 47 dBm. So I know for a fact if I'm walking around with my handset and I go upstairs, I'm going to be able to hand over correctly. The calls will not drop. They're going to be in a yeah, it's a good setup. If it was more than negative 75, then I would expect to get some calls drops. I'll go back to my keynote. So I assign additional base station through WARE network. I configure and sync the base station and ensure sync is coming from the master between negative 75 and 0 dBm. Other thing to check on is on here as well is the primary sync IP address. So if I browse to my secondary base station that I provisioned, I'll go to here, admin, and again the secure password. I go to multi-cell. I can see that I'm syncing from 192.168.1.56, which is the master IP address, which is this DECT base station. So what that's doing is it's pulling down all of the provisioning settings. So when I'm configuring things like the alarm profiles and the extensions, it's pulling all of that across to my slave base stations. And the devices need to be able to see each other peer-to-peer, so they need to be able to see each other in a fully meshed network. So you can't have it in separate networks. They need to be able to see each other directly. Okay. If I go back to my keynote. So a little bit about the handsets. The WR70, which is this device here, it's our entry-level DECT handset. It gives you presence, so I can see in the phone book who's available, who's not available. I can see integrated phone books. I've got the 3.5mm jack on the side for headsets. Belt clip is optional. Cat IQ, as we spoke about before, and wideband audio, so HD audio, G722. I can then use the WR100, which is this device here. I have push to talk feature on it and vibration, plus all of the features of the WR70. So everything that we've talked about with the WR70 also comes on this. Also get a belt clip, vibration, push to talk. It's a nice nice displayed screen as well. Very the pixels are much better than the entry level. And then with the WR150, I have things like the lone worker alarm. So I can do the alarm button. I can use things like running alarm, man down feature, and I'll go through that later in this presentation, how to set that up. But you get all of these nice features that come only with the WR150. Also get it's IP65 rated, so I think it's fully dust proof and water resistance to a certain degree. So if you're interested in IP65 rated handsets, this is the one to go for. So once you've provisioned your base station, you're going to want to know, how do I register a handset to it? So when you turn on a Wildix DECT handset, it should automatically connect to the nearest base station. If it doesn't, you can click on the three dots here. Once you've clicked on that, you can go down to connectivity and register that against the base station. To enter it, it's 4 zeros. So once you do that, it registers. It comes up with an unknown user login. So you'll usually see login 1 or login 2, depending on where you are in the sequence. Once it gets to that, that means it's actually connected to the base station and connected to the Wildix PBX, but it's not actually logged into it as a user. So to log in as a user, dial 99. And then if you hit the speakerphone, this is what I do because it's easier for me to enter the password. I hit the speakerphone.
Please enter your phone number followed by pound.
Ask me to enter my phone number followed by pound. The phone number is my extension number. So I enter that and then I put in the password. Now the password is the first 5 digits in numeric of either the user's web password or the user's admin password. So it's one of the two. To give you an example, there's the password there. I've put the first 5 digits, W1ALD1X. So that would be, like I said, 9 for W, 1, 5 for AL. Notice how I don't have to press 5 3 times to get to AL. You just press it once and then move on to the next digit, and then 1 again, and then X. And then you can log in. I don't think it needs X actually. I think it's 5 digits before that. Okay. Oh, incidentally as well, when you're using 99, that is also to log out of a handset. So 99 isn't just to log into a handset. You can use that to log out. So once you're logged in, if you want that device to go back to anonymous user, so it's provisioned, but it's yeah, but it's not actually logged into a user, then you can do 99, enter the extension, and then press 0 to log off instead of 1 to use this phone. So you can use it for both methods. Okay, so survey mode requirements. So you're basically looking for areas, well, fulfilling a complete area that you want with roaming to be better than -75 dBm. So to perform a site survey, what you want is a 48 volt PoE power injector or a PoE switch, a Wildix WR phone, and a base station, one of these base stations, WR base. To go and do a survey mode, what you're going to need to do is upgrade the base station. So provision it first to a PBX, upgrade it. After it's been upgraded, reset the base station to factory default settings. So to reset a WR base, there is a button here on the left hand side. Hold that in, I think it's about 10 seconds, it'll flash on the front, then reboots. That sends it back into factory default mode. Then what you're going to need to do is take a WR phone, obviously power the base station on through whatever means you've got, whether you've got a power injector or a PoE switch. What you're then going to want to do is on your phone, you're going to go to the menu button, which is here on the right hand side. Do *47*. That does a search. It will find it based on its MAC address or IP address, whatever it's got. I'll then click the device that I want to look for. I've got two here because I've got one upstairs at the moment. So I'll select that. And then I can see on here what my dBm is to that base station. So I've selected the one upstairs, and I can see that I'm 0.50 to the dBm to the base station. So I'm going to get a good quality call. And then if I was roaming as well from here to upstairs, it'd be absolutely fine. I wouldn't have any issues with it. So when it comes up with the RSSI, the received signal strength indicator, I know that I'm in a good signal area. When it gets to -75, I know that's where I'm going to need to put in another base station to ensure that I'm going to get good handover or another repeater. So really easy to set up a survey mode. It doesn't require much, just requires handset, PoE injector, and your DECT base station. So some things to look out for when you're doing a survey. So you're going to want to try and avoid metal constructions. Try to minimize the obstacles between base stations. Avoid signal interference from microwaves, electrical engines, electrical switchboards, any anti-theft equipment. You cannot, like I said before, you cannot interconnect two base stations with the help of a repeater. So what that means is you can't have a base station, a repeater, and then a base station and try and get the connection to handover. It's not that way. It should be base station within a -75 radius. All coverage on a site survey must receive a dBm value of better than -75 for good handovers. Okay. So alarm profiles. It's a couple of alarms that you can use for the WR150. So you've got the alarm button. Press that down for 3 seconds. On the top of the handset, it will trigger an alarm. So if I hold this down, I'll see it's ringing on the handsets. So I've got this set up in here. I've also got the pull cord alarm, which is So this part here, if that comes off, it can trigger the alarm again. Got the running alarm. So if the handset is shaken up and down for several seconds, won't demonstrate that, it will trigger an alarm. Man down feature, so if the handset remains in a position of an angle over 60 degrees for a certain amount of time, the alarm is triggered, and then you've got no movement as well. So when you're using a no movement alarm, you can then trigger that alarm after a certain timeout to call a number. So there's a couple of steps that you're going to need to set up for your WR150 and your base station in order to set up the alarms for it. So first of all, you're going to want to log into WMS. You're going to want to find the master base station, log into the base station with the secure password that I talked about. Navigate to the alarm profiles, set up the alarm profiles that you want, and then assign the alarm profiles to the actual user that's using the WR150, and then set the number that it's going to call when the alarm profile is pressed. So what that looks like. Let's log into the base station. Admin. And my password. Tricky to copy. Copy. Paste. Log in. So I've logged into the base station, which is this base station here. Then I'll go down to alarms on the left-hand side. Once I'm in the alarms, I can set which ones are enabled and which ones are not enabled. I've enabled the button, the man down, the running, and the pull cord. I can then have a trigger delay, so how long it's set and before the alarm is triggered, and then a pre-alarm delay, so alarming the user that it's going to actually send that alarm, and then also howling as well. So howling is when you actually press the alarm or trigger the alarm, the handset also makes a noise. And then once you've set it up in your alarm profile, so again, alarm profile on the master base station down here on the left hand side, you set up your alarm profiles. Then what you want to do is assign those alarm profiles to the user. So I then go to the extensions, click on the IDX of the user that I want. And then if I scroll down, I can see which alarm I've enabled. So for this example here, all I've enabled is the the alarm button. So you can tick which alarm is available for that user. I've enabled that, and then up here, alarm number, that's the number that it's going to ring. So I've set, when I press this button here, it calls 301. And you can see on the front of the phones, it's calling 301. I've set it to display the number and set it to send an email, which I'll go through with you. Incidentally as well, we go back. On here, this is where you can see what handsets are registered to what user. And you can also see what the firmware is and whether there's a firmware upgrade in progress. So if there is a firmware upgrade in progress, you'll see the progress of it along here. Okay, so if I go back to my keynote. So we've set that up, calling a certain number when you do an alarm profile. But what we want to do is enhance the profile. So what we actually want to do is send an email. So it's not just a handset that's ringing on desks. You also get an email notification. We can do setting a ringtone. we can get it to call a group, we can get it to overflow to the emergency services. Not only that, you can get it to actually page. So if someone wants to press it, it can come straight out of the speakerphone of other devices. So it's really flexible what you can do. And in this example, this is what I've set up for sending an email and setting a ringtone, which I can share with you after the presentation. But I'll just talk you through how I've set it up. So like I say, on the alarm itself, for the user, I've set call 301. So it's gonna, the alarm number is 301. In my user's dial plan, I have 301, and I've got jump to my emergency dial plan procedure and follow my emergency rule. So if I go into my emergency dial plan, click edit, expand on my emergency dial plan, I can see what I've got. So when I press it, it's going to pre-append the number with help, so people know that someone's pressed the alarm button. Not only that, it emails so that the person receiving it, or it could be a group mailbox, can receive that to say, okay, the emergency button's been pressed. It's got a timestamp against it. I can see where it's coming from. So it gives all of that functionality as well. I could then set a ringtone. So it's not just a standard ringtone that comes out of the devices like an internal or an external call. I can actually set it to play an emergency tone, so people know straight away, okay, I need to answer this call. And then I can get it to go to a group. And then after that, if the group doesn't answer after 25 seconds, I've then got an announcement to say, this call is now being forwarded to the emergency services, and I'm sending the call then out over my SIP trunk, and I'm calling 999. So it's really flexible. The reason I'm just showing you this is just the flexibility of what you can do within the dial plan to enhance the emergency profiles and the alarm buttons. So it's not just calling a number, you can get it to do a lot more. Okay. So I'll carry on with the presentation. Another feature on the WR100 and the WR150 is push to talk feature. So on the right hand side of the devices, you have a button here. If I hold that down, hello, how are you? That's coming straight out of the speakerphone on my WR100, and vice versa as well. So if I hold this down on here, hello, how are you? I'm getting straight away walkie-talkie mode, push to talk. To enable that, again, what you got to do, go into your device on with the three buttons on the right hand side, go into your settings menu, and then if you press the up arrow key, it goes right to the bottom of the menu, and then click on push to talk and just enable that. Once you've enabled push to talk, also enable it the same way on your other device, and then you can have walkie-talkie mode or push to talk throughout your various devices. But like I say, that is only available for the WR100 and the WR150. So it's not available for the WR70, but it is available for the WR100 and WR150. Okay. So moving on to WR headset. It's the largest wireless roaming headset in the world, since its signal coverage is guaranteed by the WR DECT system, for you to move around the whole coverage area without having to worry about interruptions or sound quality. To register a headset, you can press the call button here and the volume up and down button. That will then register with the base station. You'll hear headset registering. Once it's registered, you then have to assign it to a user. So to assign it to a user, what you need to do is log into collaboration. Once you're logged into collaboration, you can then go to where you set your devices. Once you've set your device, go down to add device, press the call button on your ear. It will then give you a 4-digit pairing code. Type in the 4-digit pairing code into the collaboration, and then that device will be logged on as that user. So you can manage assigning it through collaboration, but then you don't need to do anything else. You can just use it straight as a DECT device. So you can answer the call, put it on hold. I think you can actually manage it from your mobile device these days as well with the latest update. But the first initial steps to actually provision it is assigning it through collaboration, and that's how you do it. So 2 steps: call, volume up, volume down. That then registers it, and then assign it through collaboration. To factory default them as well. I think if you hold down the mute button and the call button for, I think it's 5 seconds, it will factory default. So if it's already been assigned to another base station prior to that, you can then go through and factory default if you need to. Okay, a little bit about ASR. So automatic speech recognition with Wildix business intelligence feature built into the WA headset if you're using premium recurring licenses. If I put this on and I'll press the button, it will say, please say the name of the person that you want to dial. Ian Rowan. Ian Rowan. So what this should do now is actually call Ian Rowan, and I should see the handsets ringing in a minute. It's this handset I've got logged in as Ian. There you go. So I can see calls coming directly through. It just says calling Ian Rowan. I can answer that, put it on hold, all of that stuff. Another thing that you can do with ASR as well, so a couple of feature requests we've had is to be able to call groups. In a moment, what you can do is set up a dummy user. So like I did before with the emergency, I can do things like sales. So it says in your ear, please say the first and last name of the person you want to call. If I create a user called sales, for instance, I'll go back, go to my users. I can see on here, I have created a user called sales. Click on sales, click edit preferences. I've done a call forward all to 302. Now, if I go to 302 in my users dial plan, you can see I've set caller name sales, pre-appending sales on the front of it, and then I am calling the group sales. So just to show you that. Sales. Now you can see on the front of the handsets, I'm getting a call from sales. So like I say, it's a great device to use, not only just to call local users, but to call groups as well, manipulating it with dial plans. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. I hope you found it useful. And now, if you have any questions, happy to answer.